All right. So when I open up my camera app, I'm going to go to this More setting and open up Pro. This is going to open up a lot of different options for me. So all these little squares are areas of focus. I'm not going to mess with the focus yet, but I'm going to show you the white balance. So right now it's on auto. And then this is a measurement of light. Typically we want to white balance a photo first. So I want to make sure that that label on Dr. Pepper is white because it should be. After I white balance, then I can go over here to aperture settings. Remember, this is about how wide the aperture is. So notice as I'm dragging around, it's changing the brightness. And the brighter it gets, it's going to blow out the image. We never want that, but we don't want it to be quite so dark. Next, we're going to go to ISO. This also changes the brightness of the image. It's the sensitivity to light. And actually, when it was on auto, it was in the perfect spot. So I'm just going to leave it at about 800. And then we've got temperature, tint, contrast, saturation, highlight, and shadow. With the temperature, I liked where it was. This is just going to change how hot or cool the image feels. So if you look at that, it goes to warm or cool. So if you keep it in the middle, it's pretty naturally balanced. Tint is going to take color out as well, or make it a little bit lighter. Contrast is going to just emphasize the contrast between colors, so you can kind of play around with that too. And then saturation, how saturated they are. So is that red like super red, or is it kind of dull or perfectly balanced? Highlights, it's going to accentuate any light areas in the image without affecting shadows, whereas shadow is going to emphasize shadows in dark areas without messing with the light areas. Cool. So I can reset that, put it back to normal, but I liked that contrast. It's pretty nice, and I kind of like that saturation, so I'll keep that. All right, so I've got those. Now I'm going to go back over here, and now we can mess with that focus. So autofocus is great, but then we could just do it manually. So what if I just wanted to focus on things in the background and make the can totally blurry? I can do that. Or slowly drag it, and it's going to move from the background to the foreground. So notice the mountain versus the flower. The nice thing is this is going to add a green line around any area that's in focus, and it's going to show me what it's actually focusing on. Now there's nothing this close up to the camera, so I'm going to put it back where that label is in focus. And then I've messed with pretty much every setting in here that I want to for now, so I can just click to take a picture. If this was a low light setting, or I was trying to take a picture of this screen, then I'm going to go back to that aperture and ISO and change it. So if I was to take a picture of the screen, look at that, we're on the photography packet. I'm going to adjust that where I can see the screen, and I'll do the same thing over here with the ISO. I'm going to change the white balance again because I'm looking at a screen. And then I'll just go to autofocus and see what happens. Take a picture. All right, so those are just some simple ways that you can mess with your camera settings. I'm going to go back to auto and see what happens. We'll reset those settings. Autofocus is on. White balance will go to auto. See how much different that looks when it's all on automatic. And there's a couple more settings over here. We've got the timer, flash, and then the ratio. So this is going to change the size ratio of the image. Is it 1:1, which is equal on all sides of the image? We have full, which is going to be my entire screen, whatever size the phone is. 16:9 is a standard size if you're going to take a wide angle. And then we have 4:3. This is a big basically the size of like old TVs. But now that we're on widescreen, 16 by 9 is the new standard. And then lastly, we have metering. This is not something that you really need to mess with. I usually don't. All right, and then you do have like your different settings for special effects. I usually don't mess with these, but you can play around with them if you want to. All right, and I think that's about it. Have fun taking pictures.